Welcome everybody to my live stream. I'm very so sure that you can hear me on today's live stream. I can see I can see okay, Otre TV is here. Fumi Rilewa is here. Okay. Joseph Adeni is also here. Thank you guys for showing up for my live stream. If you can hear me, please just leave on the comment section that you can hear me. Today we are going to talk about why are nations poor? Why is it that some nations are poor? Referencing our country, Nigeria, in this live stream. Why is it that some countries are poor while others seem to be doing so well? That is the topic for today. That is the topic for today. Okay. Decency Beat said she can hear me. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So why is it that some countries are poor while some seem to have escaped poverty? What is it that these countries that have escaped poverty are doing right that we are not, the third world countries are actually not doing right? The topic is about the third world country, the developing country. I'm going to give you, in the course of the live stream, I'm going to give you a little bit of story whether it is underdeveloping country, developing country, or underdeveloped country. So we're going to see those differences. We share that in the course of this live stream. So why are countries, poor? Why are some countries poor? And why is it that other countries seem to be making headway? The citizens of these other developed countries seem to be having, a rosy life, seem to be doing so well. And then the third world country, the African country, the Latin American country, the Asian, those in the Asian continents, the Latin American continent, the African continents, and with specific reference to my own country, Nigeria, why is it that we are not, we're so poor? We're living, majority of the people, of the citizens, that are living below $1 a day, just within poverty, living below poverty line. That is the conversation for this live stream. So I would really appreciate if I can get input from you guys, and then begin to, you tell me from the comment section. You let me know why, in your opinion, you think that some countries are poor, why some countries seem to have escaped poverty. What is it that these, developed countries have done in order to eschew their citizens from penury, poverty, and destitution? What is it that the leaders have done to be able to do this. So I just want you guys to, share your own opinion, your views, so that, okay, Josephine Adenji saying that, my brother, bad leaders is just one of the major things that is setting us back. And that's really true. That's really true, because I was talking to one of my friends. He's in Canada. We just spoke about this a couple of days, just like an hour or two ago. And he said the reason why some countries seem to be doing better than others is just leadership. The difference is in leadership. And the difference is in leadership, because if we don't have good leaders, if you don't have good leaders that can galvanize the resources of the country, a good leader that can set, a good economic policies, a good leader that can set, good examples that can make institutions work. If we do not have such leaders, it will just seem as if that, of course, nothing good is gonna work in that kind of country, where it seems that things are not really working well, because the leader has to be able to lead well. He's got to have the vision of how he wants the country to be. For example, just like in Singapore, we're talking about when Lee Kuan Yew took over from Singapore. Singapore was more or less like Nigeria. In fact, they all started almost at the same pace. Singapore, Malaysia, Brazil, they started at the same pace. So now, why is it that they have gone so far ahead while we are just where we are? We haven't really, been able to, get it right. We haven't really been able to get it right. So let's see what Decency is saying here. Can an old, uneducated person be leading a country and expect nothing but backwardness? Yeah, but in a way, Decency, you're right. An old, uneducated person. But I can always say that leadership really is not about age, because we have done the comparison. We've done that comparison before. Leadership is not about age. It's about what the person has at the back of his mind, what the person has in store, what can the person offer the generality of the populace. So that is the problem. What can the person offer? So if the person, even if the person is young, and doesn't have the vision to drive, the economy, it's still not going to work. If the person is old and he does have the vision, I mean, for example, in America, the Biden, the president of America, Joe Biden, is an old man. I think he's in about 78 or so. So it doesn't really have to do with age. I always tell people that you could bring an old man who is smart, very smart, and is able to, put resources together and make things work. You can also bring a very young child, a young, vibrant child that you think would probably make all the difference, and still finds it difficult to make things work. So that is it. But everything is about leadership, because sometimes sometimes they refer to these poor countries, as underdeveloped or third world countries, or sometimes they refer to them as developing countries. So this brings me to my university days. I need to share this with you. This brings me to my university days during my time as a freshman in the university. There was a course, a major I took in one of the courses, and then a professor of mine, came into the classroom to take up a lecture, and I think the topic was about a professor of I think development economics. The professor of development economics walked into the class to take a lecture, and then we're talking about development and underdevelopment, and he said we should not say Nigeria is a developing country, because he said he actually gave that as an assignment, and I wanted to know if Nigeria was a developing country or a developed or underdeveloping country. So whether Nigeria is a developing country, like if Nigeria is a developing country, how come the economy of the country has been stagnated for such a long period of time? Because it does seem like it is only in the 60s, 70s, or maybe early 80s. It appears that things worked out more then. Things worked out more then than they are working now. So if Nigeria indeed was a developing country, they would have, gone far ahead. I mean, also be at par with Singapore that they started with, also be at par with Malaysia, some of the countries that they all started together. But instead, Nigeria has been retrogressing. It's been going backward and backward. So Nigeria cannot be said to be called a developing country. Instead, Nigeria is underdeveloping country. So that at that point, I didn't quite know what to say, because for me, I had actually thought that it was just in semantics, developing country or under, it was just semantics, depending on how you wanted to address, to make that comparison in terms of trying to show levels of development. But he said no, because the point I was trying to make in the class was this: there's really no point saying that Nigeria is underdeveloping or developing country, because underdeveloped country does not mean absence of development. It doesn't mean absence of development. It's just that development is coming in bits, in pieces, in piecemeals, and like it just keeps coming gradually and gradually. So it doesn't really mean that Nigeria is not developing. So after I gave that argument, I was able to to agree with him, because if indeed we are developing, we should have, be moving at a pace of contemporaries like Malaysia or Singapore. But instead, you can't even be compared to these economies. We can't compare the economy of Nigeria to that of Singapore or that of Malaysia. They have gone, way, far ahead of us. So that is the point. And then I can see some comments here. Laws of men. Okay, I guess what Josephine is trying to say here is saying that the laws here are the ones meant for the poor. They don't give laws. They don't give laws that can favor the poor people. They want to give laws that the clique, the elites are the ones to benefit from these laws. That's what I guess that's what Josephine is saying. I can also see another comment here from what's okay. And still Josephine is saying, do you know that we have all resources to be developed? Yeah, we have all the resources. The problem is, do we have the leader? That's where the leadership comes in. Do we have the leaders that will come in and because I keep saying it, a good team makes the dream work. A good team makes the dream work, because if you don't have a good team, you have to be a visionary leader to be able to assemble a good, management team to help you propagate that vision that you have for the country. So that is it, because if you are a leader and you're unable to, put together a good management team, of course, there's going to be a problem in the country. So you have to be a good leader that is able to attract or recognize competence, recognize people that can get the job done, and then be able to go for them and then ensure that the job is done. And there should also be a system where people are punished, a system where people are punished, and where, I mean, they can also be rewarded when they do well. A situation where you have leaders who just appoint people, bring people into the cabinet, and if these people are not performing, they just keep staying there without having a change. So that kind of country definitely is not going to move forward. It's not going to move forward because as they come in, if maybe at the point of ministerial level or commissioner level, or maybe direct DG level, whatever level they come in, they already have a template where they can use that template to achieve. They can use that template to achieve the goal for which they were appointed to, superintend over whatever thing they were appointed to superintend. And then if at the end of the day, their KPI does not measure up to the objective, the objective for which they were appointed to do that, they should be fired and replaced. So keeping them there, they become redundant, and then they are unable to, bring the needed change, the needed positive vibes that organization, would have, used in probably growing and going to the next level. So the best thing is just to have fired them. So we need to have that leader that is that prompt and knows when to make a change and knows when to retain certain people, because that will also, encourage. That will also, in fact, affect how people there understand, and then how they can bring in that positive change that can turn around or increase the per capita income of the people there. And then another thing that has kept us in this situation that we are, it's corruption, administrative corruption. Because, for example, there's absolutely no way you want to have things done when the system is, very corrupt. When the system is very corrupt, things will not really work well. As a matter of fact, I want to give you an example. Just the war in Afghanistan, when Afghanistan was giving aid as high as $32 billion, and this money was diverted, and this was money that was actually meant to, improve the standard of living of the people, who are just coming out from the war. It was being looted. A BBC news, carried that. So you can see what corruption can do. Monies that were made, aids that was sent to like Afghanistan that should have been used to, correct or improve the lives, the living standard of the people, ends up in private pockets. So how do you expect that country to, rise above poverty? Is definitely not going to happen. That's for Afghanistan. And even in Nigeria, during the insurgency, I mean, it was over the news. It was over the news when the present administration came on board that the monies that were meant for armed procurement was diverted into private pockets at the point that, in fact, they had to be. I mean, I think they went after most of these people. So it's funny because, one, it killed the morale of the soldiers and the security people that were actually fighting to keep the country safe. So how would you take money that was meant for arms so that insurgency could be quelled, and then you diverted it into private pockets? How do you expect such system to grow? That's another part. And then the administrative malfeasance that is going on. In fact, before I even go into that, let's even talk about the tax system. The tax system. Someone, for example, most of these foreigners coming into your country to establish large businesses. Some of them get discouraged because of the various kickbacks. Most of these heads of parastatals, government agencies, they will have to pay for this, have to pay for that. And then at the end of the day, they get discouraged. They won't even want to come into your country to invest. And you know what it means when we lack foreign direct investment. When there's no foreign direct investment for a country that is begging to improve the lives and the lives of the people and improve the living condition of the people, improve the per capita income of the people, improve the national income of the country. Yet, the FDI that was actually supposed to come into the country, these investors, these foreign investors, are discouraged by, the corruption in the system. So that's number one. Another way again that one would say that why most of these countries, for example, Nigeria, keep being poor is a simple thing. What's our national income like? Most income generating agencies, for example, like NMPC and the customs, the FIRS, NPA, that's National Port Authority, then FAN, Federal airports, FAN, so where are the monies that they're getting from the income they're getting? Where are they? Are they really paying it into the federal coffers? So that's the problem. So you can see that they generate this income, and this income find its way somehow into private pockets, into the so-called big man, and not being paid into the federal coffers, where this money can be used for planning and then be used to improve the lives of the citizens. So that is the problem. So we need a good leader that will be able to make the institution very strong, and then from there, okay, I'm reading comments here now. Okay, go. Yeah, okay, I think I've read that one. Okay, let me see the comments here and then point to that. Okay. Okay. Grally's resources, it says we have talking about leadership for ages. Yeah, Nigeria, we've been talking about leadership for ages because the country seems to have leadership deficiency. Because if we can get our leadership right, every other thing will fall in place. Yes, exactly what Grally's resources just said. If we can get the right leadership, everything will definitely fall into place. And that is the truth. Another reason why we seem to be poor is because there is complete absence of industrialization. For example, I mean, you can't even see other developed nations of the world like America, UK, Germany. They are highly industrialized. I mean, the steel industry in the US is so huge that, in fact, if you put African continent, Asia, Latin American together, you cannot get it. Only in the US. So now, if you are not industrialized, how are you going to break away from poverty? It's almost impossible, because if from industrialization you are able to produce enough for your citizens and then for exports, and then get foreign exchange that can change your current account situation. But a situation where you're not industrialized, you don't have any manufacturing company, everything you want, you import from the very pressured mega foreign exchange that you have from a monolithic commodity like crude oil. So that pressure, that is why we keep seeing an naira value going down every day, because the only thing that brings foreign exchange, the only major thing that brings foreign exchange to the country is just oil, nothing else. And then there's so much pressure in trying to get other things, and we in fact import almost everything. So how are we going to grow when we are not industrialized? So that's another point. because lack of industrialization or a complete absence of industrialization, as indeed, is also responsible for why we keep being a poor country. Because like in Nigeria, I know we are tired of hearing of Ajakuta steel, the steel industry in Nigeria. Instead of, giving us, realizing the objective of its set up, it has become a conduit pipe where every successive government uses Ajakuta steel as a way of, as for administrative malfeasance. This government comes in that he wants to put in billions of naira for turnaround maintenance, and at the end of the day, the steel industry, Ajakuta, has refused to be turned around, and another government comes. So instead of the steel industry that we have here to, help us in making us at least one of the industrialized nations, instead it is a conduit pipe for leakages of our, very meager earnings that we have. So that is another thing we lack. And then another point I want to talk about is then when we are even talking about agriculture, we seem to have been called an agricultural country. So what are we even producing? Are agricultural products enough to service the citizens, let alone for exports? And even when we even try to export, I mean, quite recently, the present administration has been doing so much about agriculture, and then have been giving a lot of help with the anchor borrowing program, where billions of naira have been devoted into this program. But unfortunately, we haven't really it hasn't really made any major impact. For example, quite recently, I think that was in 2017, the then Minister for Agriculture then, I think Adu Ogbe, complained that yam export was rejected by the US government for not meeting the minimum standard, that was so poorly packaged that it was rejected. So if we cannot package something as simple as yam and export, so what are we talking about? So how are we going to break away from poverty when, okay, beyond just oil, we can't even package yam, and the yam that has been packaged cannot even meet the minimum quality standard that will be accepted, and it gets rejected. That was a national embarrassment for us, that our products that was supposed to have been exported got rejected by the US government. So you can see that. And why is this happening? Because we have continued to use an unscientific way of producing these things without proper standards set for that. So how are we supposed to export these things in such a large number that will change our current accounts situation? So we really have an issue. Even, for example, we see us producing most of these products. We don't even have the silos to warehouse our grains to fight against fluctuations in seasonal fluctuations. We do not even have silos to even warehouse these grains and then maybe use them much later, but we don't. So how are we supposed to grow? So that is another point. I'll look at please just keep the comment coming in. And just Josephine, okay. Josephine said tribalism and religion. Yeah, tribalism and religion, that's the nepotism we keep talking about. They say, put the right person in the right position so that he can make it can make the needed impact, because they will tell you that hunger doesn't speak any language. It cuts across everybody. So by the time you come to say that, okay, because you're from my religion or you're from my tribe, irrespective of whether you have the competence, you are going to be given that. Of course, it's going to be disaster. So we have to rise above nepotism and put square pegs in square holes rather than putting square pegs in round holes. So we need to put the right people who have the competence, the technical know-how in position so that they can give us the needed result. Thank you so much for that, Josephine Adeniji, for that point. And then I can see, okay, just keep the comments coming in. Okay. Keep the comments coming in. A moment with blessing, I can say good evening, okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Yes, lack of maintenance culture. Who said this? Oh, Josephine again. Lack of maintenance culture. Yes, of course, a situation where we must always wait until something gets so bad. That explains why we have infrastructural deficit. So that brings me to the issue of infrastructure. So, social, the social amenities, social system. It's so bad that we do not have that maintenance culture. We only have to wait until something gets so bad before we are able to, and then we start putting so much resources to want to turn it around and stuff. So if we have that maintenance culture where we need to, maybe we say, okay, within 2 years, we have to check this, maintain this, check the condition of this. I think we'll be able to save more money and then divert this money to other pressing issues. And then this can also have an impactful influence on some of the demands of the citizens. Thank you so much for that comment coming from Josephine. And then we have, okay, Rally's Resources said, even the woman selling akara by roadside knows that our problem is all about leadership and corruption. Absolutely. Because the moment we get this right, the moment we get our leadership right, and I just keep saying it, every other thing will fall into place. I talked about the social services, like the infrastructural services provided by these countries are another important indicators whether we are developing or we are underdeveloping, or we are developed nations. For example, because the basic social amenities to a larger extent indicates how well the people are well off. And that's just the truth. Indicates how well the people are well off. If you have the basic social services, it will show you that that's okay. This is how, for example, by extension, for example, now, if you have basic infrastructure like a good health care now, good health care, pipe-borne water, it will also affect your life expectancy. Maybe that's why the life expectancy of the average Nigerian is as low as 55 years, meaning that a child that is born today is obviously going to live, averagely in the next 55 years. That's the life expectancy for a Nigerian child who is born today. Compare that to the life expectancy of a child that is born in the US that has about 78 years life expectancy. You can see the difference. You can see the difference. So the quality of the social services, availability of social services in that country will, to some extent, can tell you the kind of quality of life the citizens are actually going to live. And then if they lower that, of course, it will also affect the life expectancy of that country. It's as simple as that. Because, excuse me, because if, for example, now, if you have these social services, the quality of the social services, I've mentioned the hospitals now, if they're also okay. Of course, in the third world or in the African continent, for every 1,000 deaths, every 1,000 children that are born in a country that has a very poor social services, how many of those kids are actually going to live to see their first birthday? So that's the problem. So you can see the number of children born within that year. How many of such children would live to see their first birthday or their second birthday? The high infant mortality is so high in third world countries compared to the developed countries because of serious social services deficit that is not available in the third world country. So this will continue to make the citizens, that country, poorer and poorer, except these things are corrected. So these are just ways that will keep a country poor compared to the developed countries. So because even in the hospitals now, what even is the ratio of doctors per patient? Ratios of doctors per patient is so poor in African continents, the third world country, compared to the developed country. And because of this, even the brain drain that is being witnessed, how doctors are emigrating from their country to other countries of US, UK, Latin America, and Western Europe in search of greener pastures, and then going there to develop the economies of those countries, and then still leaving their own here to be where it is. So these are just few reasons that would continue to make the country poor. We should, Moment with Blessing Akan is saying we should all change our orientation and mindset. We should all influence the change we seek for. Yeah, basically that, but they will tell you that a dying man, a drowning man would want to hold anything to stay afloat. I know that one of the presidents in the United States, I think that was the Kennedys, they said, think what you can do for your country rather than what your country can do for you. But before he made that statement, if you go through the history of the Kennedys, you see that they benefited so much from the American government. So it is so understandable to hear those kind of comments coming from the then president, John F. Kennedy, that you should think of what you can do for your country rather than what your country can do for you. If you juxtapose that with what is happening in the third world, in African continent, you can see basically that the African government would, they seem not to even care about the citizens. I was talking to one of my friends who is in Canada not too long ago. He was telling me that, in fact, in terms of welfareism for the citizens, Canada is even about #1, because if you come in and you don't even have a job, all you need to do is to go and report that you don't have a job, and they'll ask you for your bank statement to confirm indeed that you don't have a job, you haven't been receiving pay, and the government will place you on some stipend because they understand that if you are left the way you are without jobs, of course they say the idle mind is a devil's playing field. They know what is really going to happen if they allow that. So you go there, and then they see, and then they place you on something that can, and keep you until when you can get a job. But it doesn't happen here. Whether you have a job, you don't have a job, nobody cares. Nobody cares. So answering what A Moment with Blessing is saying, that think of what you can do for your country rather than what your country can do for you. But your country has to be there for you. A country that doesn't care about whether you can feed, whether your child has education, whether your child has good health care. A country that can't think that way, so how can that patriotism, that patriotic trait in you, spirit in you, how can that come out so that you can give your all to such a country? So I'm not saying that citizens are not supposed to be patriotic, but I'm just trying to compare the two countries, America and Nigeria. So when they say Think of what your country can do. Think of what you can do for your country rather than what your country can do for you. The country is already there for you. I just told you of what my friend just told me from Canada not too long ago. You know, that you can even, he said you can even go as far as saying that you don't have money to pay your rents and they augment it for you. In the third world country, where are you going to go to say, oh, I don't have a job, I don't have money to pay my rent, and the government comes to your rescue to ensure that, oh, you're taken care of? It doesn't happen. It will never happen. So when you compare these two countries, you know that the level of patriotism of the citizen of, for example, Nigeria, and the level of patriotism of the citizen of the Canadian citizen, it will be different. It will be because a Canadian citizen will feel more patriotic towards the country because the country was there for him when he didn't have anything to do. And then in this other country, sorry, there's no. In fact, you can't even compare. The level of patriotism will be different, and that's just the truth. Okay, she is saying. Okay, let me see. I wish you can read this. Okay, the moment with blessing. The moment with blessing is saying, okay. He said, how will our voice be heard when everybody is afraid of being victimized? Some allow themselves to be cheaply bribed during elections so what are we saying? Okay, so that's it. Of course. The thing is this. The thing is that I always say it, that there's a deliberate effort from politicians and the power that be to keep the citizens humble in put them in the situation that they are, so that they can become willing tools, pawns for them to use when they need them. For example, during elections, because if you're well fed, you're well endowed, if you're well empowered, you're well empowered. I don't think someone coming to give you, for example, 3,000, 5,000 to go and make some very nasty decisions during elections. The person cannot even approach you, but they keep you in that condition so that you become a willing tool for them, so that whenever they are, doing their election, they can come to you, and then so that is the point, blessing. So and sometimes you may not really blame these people, but they need to be reoriented, give them a proper orientation and let them know that these things that they are doing, they are indeed still endangering themselves, endangering generations to come, so they should always vote according to their conscience. They should always vote according to their conscience, because when you sell your conscience over pittance like 5,000 naira, 3,000 naira, 10,000 naira, which might not even take you up to like to a day or two before the money evaporates, just disappears. But you have given like 4 years, 4 years, 8 years to a particular candidate just for that. So at the end of the day, you are the one to pay for that. So citizens should stop doing that. I really understand what Blessing is saying. Citizens should stop doing that. So that is the thing. Another factor why many countries remain poor is mismanagement in government. I think I've already mentioned that, and what I'll call administrative malfeasance. Many countries of the third world remain poor because improper management of resources, ineffectiveness in monitoring income-generating agencies, which I have also mentioned, agencies like the Customs, NPA, FIRS, NNPC, FAN, leading to economic fleas of our world. And I also talked about tax administration, all kinds of tax jobbers everywhere, and a good tax system can indeed generate enough revenue. Because if you look at it, why is it that people run into third world country to do business? Because they feel that the tax system there is so porous that they can beat the system, and then siphon this money repatriate this money back to their country. But in developed country, you don't dare that. Tax evasion is a serious crime. If you're caught, you're gone. You pay through your nose. But these people will find their way to Africa, bring in large organization businesses, and they fail to pay the tax because they connive with the tax authority to deny the country of this income. And this is the income that would have been used to service all kinds of problems the third world country is undergoing. That would have been the income that would have been used to, fix the infrastructural deficit in the country. That would have been the income that would have been used to, build schools, build good hospitals for people. But they connive with the system and then take back these resources to their country, repatriate these monies to their countries. So the tax administration is very key. Is very key. Tax administration can, bring a huge impact in the economy of a country. And what other mess? Oh, okay. Yeah, Nelia sister, this. Yeah, I have. Let me say, if you want to join, yeah, this is to. I'm responding to Milia C that this kind of topic is supposed to be a brainstorming session or panels. It is a long talk, my brother. Yes, I think I don't. You can come into. You can be part of the conversation. I have dropped the link. Of this live stream. You can see the link of the live stream is already there. You can get it, and then I drop that link. The link on the live stream is there. You can get the link, and then if you want to be part of this conversation, you can come in as a guest, and then we continue the conversation. So that is that. Okay, I think I've read this. Please keep a comment coming in. Okay, this is Grally's resources. Say, how do we correct these ills in a society is the big question. Yes, how do we correct this? How do we correct this? You have said it all, leadership. It is by changing the leadership. If you change the leadership, some of these things can be corrected. But if you allow the same people that have looted the treasury, the same corrupt individuals, the same people, because these are the people, they steal this money so that they keep rotating, coming back to the corridors of power, so that they continue to control the resources, they continue to control everything. But how do you change it? It is the power resides in the hands of the people. The only way they can do that is for them to rise up and say enough is enough. And rise up and say enough is enough, and then elect the right leader, into these offices. That is the only way. A leader that will be accountable. A leader that will be accountable, because I do not understand where there is no means where you can appraise politicians. You cannot appraise politicians except they have to be there until after 4 years. In most cases, they are not voted out because they have already solidified themselves in office. They know what to do to come back again. So there should be a way we can appraise these people, appraise them. Why into their tenure, they can be kicked out or recalled for non-performance. So that is the moment you start seeing politicians being recalled, I think they will sit up. I'm just responding to the question put forward here by Grally's resources. I'm just responding to this question. How do we correct these ills? That is how to correct the ills. That is how to correct the ills. we need to elect the right people and should put things in place to appraise their performance and recall them when they don't perform. And the moment we begin to recall representatives or senators, we begin to recall them, I think other will take a cue from them and sit up. Okay. And then okay, I'm seeing a moment with blessing. Moment with blessing said, my brother, if politicians bribe you and you collect during elections, if they are not doing well, you will not have the courage to ask them or challenge them because they have given you short of money. But that's the truth. If someone bought his election, he bought his election. So you collected the money. You don't have the moral right to go and challenge him that you're not performing, you're going to be recalled. You don't. So the best thing is for you to stop. The best thing is for you to stop. Stop collecting bribe from politicians for votes. Stop the vote buying. Vote your conscience. And then when politicians don't do well, they should have a way of how they can be recalled. The moment you see politicians being recalled from their seats, if it becomes a norm in the country that they're being recalled from their seats, other politicians, I can assure you, we sit up, because if it happened to one of the colleagues, it's definitely going to happen to them in the event that they are not performing. And that's just the truth. And the truth. Okay. Okay. More comments, please, so that we can talk about this. More comments, more comments, more comments. Okay, Andy Bassi said, a country that celebrates corrupt politicians, how can this country move forward? Exactly my point. Yeah. In fact, let me give you an example. I had an uncle that was an executive director, in one of the top government agencies. Very, honest, sincere, does his job well, even though he wasn't well paid. And I can tell you the backlash that he got from the village. That look at this one, he only has one house in his village. His mates are building skyscrapers all over cities. He's just, so you can see. So the system, it's a problem with the system. So even the people that will actually to appraise you, to give you your scorecard, are the ones even getting upset because that's the system. If you're unable to do what the next person is doing, they're going to ask you, Shane, both of you went to the same organization. This one has built this, has done that, and you're still here. So that is the thing. Until we need to be properly reorientated. We need that. We need to correct that mindset. So until we correct that mindset, it becomes a syndrome. It becomes like a culture. It becomes a way of life. So this answers the question where Andy Bassi said, a country that celebrates corrupt politicians. That is it. So, for example, there's a particular politician that was in the country here. The politician, a former governor to be precise, he was found not guilty. But when he traveled out of the country, he was found guilty and jailed for stealing billions of the country's money. For stealing billions of the country's money. Money that was meant to take care of the downtrodden. Money that was meant to build schools. Money that was meant to build roads. I'm sure the state of the bad road would have killed thousands and thousands of Nigerians. But this particular politician diverted this money for his personal use. And then when he was even in his own country, was found not guilty until he traveled out of the country where he was found guilty and jailed. Now, wait and listen to this. When this politician eventually finished serving his jail term and came back to the country, you will not believe the jubilation. The jubilation, the celebration. How can you celebrate a politician, a former governor that kept you poor? Okay, I went out. Okay, can you hear me? There was a bit of glitch. I was in network glitch, but I'm back now. If you're still here, please can you drop in the comment section that you can hear me? Can you drop in the comment section that you can hear me? There was a glitch. There was a network glitch. If you can hear me, type in the comment section. If you're still with me, are you still with me? Are you still with me? Guys, are you guys still with me? Okay, you can hear me. Relaxation time. Okay, so I can go on. I had a bit of a technical itch. There was a network glitch that timed me out. Yeah, we're talking about why our countries poor. Why is it that some countries are doing well and then some seem not to be doing well? Efio, let me have my phone. Why is it that some countries are doing well and some seem not to be doing well? That is the focus of this conversation. So that is the focus of this conversation. So countries are poor because their economies don't manage to grow sufficiently. That is the issue. Their economies don't manage to grow sufficiently. Okay, Grali's resources said you can hear me. Yeah, sorry, there was a technical each, and I went off for a few minutes. Countries are poor because their economies don't grow sufficiently. Many third world countries remain poor because of improper management of resources, which is something I have also discussed. And then the ineffectiveness in monitoring the income and resource of the country, failure also in diplomacy, and failure in anti-corruption campaign. I mentioned that. In my country, the present presidents now actually came under that banner of, ensuring that there was no corruption. And let me just focus on corruption. And then because the country was, in fact, so much into corruption, corruption had taken over the fabric of the whole country. So when he came with that, corruption crusade, we all thought, yes, the end of corruption is here. But unfortunately, it was more like something that the more you look, the less you see. It was more like a mirage, something that would never happen. And then but one of the reasons that a country keeps or remains as a poor country is that country's inability to failure in anti-corruption campaign. People are corrupt. There is no proper accountability. I mean, quite recently, in fact, let me even share this. There has been an arrest of the Accountant General of the Federation for a corruption of over 80 billion naira. Accountant General of the Federation just been arrested by EFCC for corruption charges or for corrupt practices of over 80 billion naira. Can you beat that? That is serious and break in fiduciary responsibility. You are the one keeping the money, but you are the one stealing from it. So anti-corruption is fought and killed, just like they say it will kill us. So that's one of the things. You can imagine what 80 billion naira can do to the Nigerian citizens who do not have electricity, who do not have good roads, who do not have good health care, who constantly living with one of the lowest per capita income in the country with a 92% poverty rate. You can imagine what 80 billion naira can do for such citizens. Yet, someone that was supposed to protect the money, give account of the money, is now being accused of stealing what he was actually supposed to safeguard. So that is the issue. So corruption is very, very one of the major reasons that has actually kept us here since independence. It has made us to continue living, most Nigerians to continue living below the poverty line. Corruption. I'm telling you, corruption. So how can these poor countries develop? How can the poor countries develop? So how can the country revive this culture of, when you're giving appointment, the first thing that comes to your head is that you want to go and steal. You want to go and steal. How can a country get, that's what Bradley's Resources is saying. So how can a country, please, and let me still get your message. Most messages are no longer coming in. Please drop your message here for me. We had thought that because as a matter of fact, they used to say it was even the military that were, okay, they are the ones corrupt. Okay, they now transited to civil authority, civil governance, civil rule since 1999. We had thought that transiting from the military in 1999 to a civil rule would yield economic boosts and prosperity, but this has remained a mirage till this day. It has indeed remained a mirage till this day, because on the occasion of, in fact, I need to share this with you, on the occasion of the International Day for Eradication of Poverty, marked on the 14th of October 2004, the United States had said this. Please permit me to quote this. Nigeria is a land of paradox. We see so much wealth and again so much poverty. There is poverty in Nigeria more than ever before. This was in 2004. In fact, economies gains made over the past decades have been reversed with frightening speed, while the government's monocultural economy predicted on oil makes it impossible for an organic growth to ensue. So in the 60s and 70s, Nigeria, Malaysia, Indonesia, Taiwan, Singapore, South Korea had similar income per capita growth rates and underdevelopment in political structures. But today, the Asian tigers, sometimes called the newly industrialized countries of the world, have escaped underdevelopment and poverty, partly because of the way in which they transformed their economy. And that's just the truth. So why are we still stuck in the middle? If we started with countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, Taiwan, Singapore, South Korea, and we're in the similar per capita growth rates and underdevelopment structures, we have the same thing together. But today, the Asian tigers, we can't even see the back of Singapore, Malaysia, we can't. South Korea, we can't. So this is it. So why have we remained in this state? Why? The windfall from oil boom was not even used to develop agriculture, nor was it used in creating a strong industrial base for the country. Inflation rates have become not even double digits. In fact, when they want to talk about inflation rate having double digits, it's no longer double digits. It is now runaway digits. Runaway, coupled with the declining productivity, unemployment continue to pose a serious threat to the economy. So when we talk of poverty, we are simply saying that a citizen of a country does not enjoy the minimum acceptable standard of living as defined by the World Bank. We don't. A country that lives below the poverty line. So how are we going to grow? So that is it. Riley's resources say sometimes is accused of stealing. Okay, someone is accused of stealing 80 billion naira and there is no protest. Exactly my point. How can in this time, how can in this very time that where we have so much lack, where the poverty rate is 92%, and the citizens of this country will hear that an accountant general has been accused of stealing 80 billion naira and there's no protest. There's absolutely no protest. Oh, this is something else. So if you cannot protest, if you can't come out and protest, so how do you intend to change the system? How do you intend to change the system? So that is it. How do you intend to change the system? So corruption negatively affects growth and welfare of the citizens. Corruption starts from different levels of organization, such as the private sector. The corruption in the private sector is second to none, as a matter of fact. The judicial system alone, how people use money to buy justice. That's corruption. That's corruption. In the education sector, in fact, prior to this moment, they used to say that joint matriculation and I think JAM, they used to say JAM was not an income generating agency. The Joint Admission Matriculation Board, JAM, they used to say it wasn't an income generating agency. And as at that time, anything would go. But all of a sudden, we see that agency remitting huge sum of money to the federal government. And the question is, what happened to, the previous administrations, the previous head of the agencies who were not remitting all these funds? It simply tells you that these monies were diverted into personal use. It's as simple as that. It's also in this country that customs and excise was not really paying income to the federal government to the point where it is paying this income. They are income generating agencies. If they don't remit this income, how can the national income have an effect? Because the national income, how do you even measure the per capita income of a country? It's just the national income of every money is collected from the country, divided by the population of that country will give you the per capita income of the country. And that's why per capita income is so low, because what is being paid into the federal coffers is so little compared to the population. It is not because we do not generate so much. It's not because we do not generate so much. We generate enough income, but I can tell you 70% of this income find its way into private use, and then the 30% that is sent to the federal coffers. By the time sometimes we we borrow money to we borrow money to even execute a budget. We borrow funds to execute budgets. We keep having budgetary deficits every time, deficits, because there is no money to fund the budgets. And then the debt servicing alone from these borrowed funds is something that will give you a very gloomy statistics that will tell you that Nigeria is not ready to get out of poverty. I am telling you, because if you generate, for example, I was listening to one of the presidential aspirants that, take for instance, if Nigeria generates about maybe 8.2 trillion naira, and then they will use about 8.1 trillion naira to service debt. So what is left in the country? So you can see almost all the monies generated from the country is being used to service debt. So how can that country grow? Of course, that country cannot grow. It's just basically so. It can't grow. So keep your comments coming in. The youths are not even protesting. Okay, I think I have read that. Any other comments here? Okay. I'm just going through this. Any other comments come in? Please let your comments come in. Yes, because another strong reason why we remain poor, for example, if there is pervasive corruption in a country, most investors would not want to come in. I have said that earlier when I started this live stream. Most investors do not want to come into the country. Investors will be reluctant to establish their large scale of businesses. Quite recently, you saw how Toyota went to Ghana to, establish its auto assembly plant. Even Twitter did not even set its administrative office here in Nigeria, had to bypass. Why are they running away from Nigeria? It's simple. Because the administrative malfeasance here is second to none, and that's why they are running. I mean, what is even our score in the Transparency International rating? What is our score? So that will tell you why they keep running away from the country. So that is just that. We will be okay. I'm still looking at. Okay, Grallis Resources said Nigeria is using 85% of the revenue in servicing debt, and we are still borrowing. That is it. Because if you use 85% of your revenue to service debt, then what is left? What is left? So what is left? So that is just that. Because if that is why you have to make an attempt to industrialize your country, where you can produce quality agricultural products, quality goods that will meet international standard, and then have another means of generating foreign exchange rather than just oil. But a situation where you do not have this is going to be a lot. In fact, it will take for you to get out of poverty, for you to move your nation from this particular situation, from the condition that you find yourself, to a prosperous condition, or into prosperity, is not going to be easy. Certainly, it's not going to be easy. So that is the truth. Because if I mentioned the agricultural products before, how our export yams were rejected by the US government for not meeting the minimum quality standard, So if you contrast this with developed countries, it will interest you to know that these developed countries are much more advanced in agricultural products than the countries of Africa, Asia, and Latin America, which I've already mentioned. While Africa, using Nigeria here as an example, one would think that solely relying on agricultural products would not even have, without even the industry to process and create some good value chain in the product line. You produce and then there's no good value chain in the product line. You can't even produce quality agricultural product that is exportable. You cannot even do that. So how do you don't even produce enough to sustain your citizens, and then you want to export. And even when you export, your exports are actually rejected for failing to meet the minimum standard of minimum quality standard. So how can you grow as a nation? The US alone consumes far more steel per person. I said that before. The US alone consumes far more steel per person than the whole of Africa, Asia, Latin America. So how can we grow as a nation when the processing of ordinary tomato paste has become a big deal in this country? So how can we grow when we do not even have silos to warehouse most of these grains, to take care of the fluctuation in the planting seasons? How can we grow? Come to even think of it. It is even more gloomy to set the statistics when measuring. Basically, you cannot grow. You cannot grow. So, guys, I will want to end this live stream here. I want to thank you so much for finding the time to be here with me. And then let's begin to think on the way forward on how we can break these genes and then move our country from our present situation of poverty to prosperity by electing the right leader, by electing the right people to superintend over our resources. Because until we do that, I must tell you, it might just be a mirage to think that one day we're going to move from this particular situation that we are into prosperity. It's not going to happen. It is only when you begin to think that for that change to happen, it has to come from me. You have to make a conscious effort to ensure that the right person is voted in, the right leader is voted in, and these people should be made accountable. And when they fail the minimum appraisal test of, doing what they promised they were going to do, they can be recalled. The moment politicians start being recalled, they know that, when they don't perform, when they don't do what they said they were going to do and they fail the minimum appraisal test and they are recalled, they'll sit up. They'll sit up. They want to do the work. But as long as it's business as usual, where politicians will use money to buy votes and get there, and you think magic is going to happen, and then it's going to be a vicious circle. It's going to continue. So we need to break away from this and do the right thing and bring in the right leaders. They can change our fortunes. They can change. They can give us hope. They can make us a pride of other nations. And I know we can do so. We can do so because if we must break away from, I wouldn't say that we are jinxed. We can't be jinxed. We can't be jinxed. We can make this happen. This can happen. Let's correct the leadership deficiency that we have here. Let's correct it. Let's get the right person to do the job for us. And I can bet you we will get to our destination. Thank you so very much for finding the time to to be part of my live stream. I really do appreciate you guys. Thumbs up for all my friends that have shown up. For me, oh my goodness, also Grally's Resources. Thank you so much for coming in here. So many relaxation time. Thank you so much. Essien, I thank you so much. Pretty May, I thank you so much. Time Out with Family, thank you so much. Oh my God, my friends. Oh, so thank you so much. Eat Healthy with Me, thank you so much. And I really appreciate Foodie Climb, thank you so much. Blessing Childs, thank you so much for coming to my live stream. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. This is where I draw the curtain for today. Peace out.